Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Destinies. I believe this will actually be the last video for video 4. What is it, like we're on video 9 or something like this now? But anyway, we're trying to figure out if the director had moved the launch pad or not, so let's see what happened there. Curse my judgment for calling history's greatest liar to the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge in his lies and war games to his heart's content. Liar! But it doesn't make sense. You can't deny that someone turned that knob. And once the safety lock was released, I'm sure the pad must have went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we just might find where the killer escaped to. Ah! You're sure it must have went somewhere? We just might find out. Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing, and wishful thinking. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is. Or are you not man enough to, boy? Yeah! Haha, talk about hitting below the belt. Youngins these days. Alright, you're old. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after he came to the lounge. But the launch pad is right where it's supposed to be. Ugh. Wait a minute. Maybe I have it all backwards. What if the director turned the knob, not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back to where it was supposed to be? What are you blathering about? What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident? And then, after the incident, Director Cosmos moved it back to its usual spot. All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back. And it would be right where the police found it. Ah! What sound was that? Wait. Oh, that was a sigh? God damn it, I can never tell. You made him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. Was what I said really that off-based? It pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you. However, our great liar turned the knob only after he discovered the crime scene. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the lounge when our astral wonders made their escape. A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film. Oh, right. So to reiterate, stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy. Ah! Get a grip, Mr. Wright, and focus! We know the launch pad must have been moved. But our deductions and the actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction to each other. Well, maybe the two astronauts never actually boarded the rocket. This footage could be fake, taken with body doubles after the incident or something. Oh no, let's not have Deja Vu Case 3. On second thought, that's too far-fetched. Even for me. Never actually boarded the rocket? Hey, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe. Huh? Prosecutor Blackwell, what if I told you that the two astronauts never set foot inside the launch pad area, or instead went into another place? And what if the director moved Launchpad 1 back? What if, when the director moved Launchpad 1 back, it was not from the launch site, but from another place? What would you say then? Cut the existential bull, or I'll cut you. Mr. Wright, you won't explain yourself at once. I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, Your Honor. Let me explain. Director Cosmos' reasoning for moving Launchpad 1 was to switch it with another place. Yes, because he wanted to switch it with some other place. I'm sorry, but did you say switch it? But what could he possibly have switched from with the Launchpad with? Oh, you'd be surprised, Your Honor. All it takes is a little thinking outside the box, and the answer becomes clear as day. This is what was switched with Launchpad 1. The Space Museum.
Take that!
Launchpad 1 was switched with the Space Museum. In the past, the Space Museum used to be Launchpad 2. It has all the same features as Launchpad 1, and can even be moved to the launch site. Meaning the Space Museum and Launchpad 1 can also be switched with each other. You cut mean? The rocket the astronauts boarded was not the one in Launchpad 1. It was the one in the Space Museum. What? Boulder Dash! And yet, it's the only explanation that accounts for every riddle and inconsistencies. This is how the Space Center was just before the incident. I see Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum have already switched places. That's right. And with the two switched like this, the astronauts entered the Space Museum from boarding lounge 1. This allowed the true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from boarding lounge 2 and set the bomb on the rocket. Come to think of it, the door to the Space Museum from boarding lounge 2.
Welcome! Welcome! The Space Museum is open to the public every day of the year from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Exactly, anyone could pass through the door to the Space Museum. There is no fingerprint recognition system on that door. In other words, with the two launch pads switched like that, someone other than Mr. Starbuck could have easily planted that bomb. Ah! After setting the bomb on the rocket, the culprit snuck into boarding lounge 1 and waited there, concealed, in order to kill Mr. Terran when the two astronauts emerged from the Space Museum. Now, how did the spy make such a dumb mistake like that? Like, seriously, wouldn't they have looked at a map or something and just... Like, how did he know it switched? Recall that Miss Blackwell, Mr. Starbuck, and the director all saw a suspicious figure, who, we can suppose, after killing Mr. Terran, made their escape into the Space Museum. After that, Director Cosmos switched the two launch pads back, without realizing the killer was inside the Space Museum. The killer then left the Space Museum and made a clean getaway. Nah! Right, Dono, I see you know how to handle a sword, and handle it well. Perhaps I should call you Swordmaster Bluff. I am a seasoned warrior who has cut down many a prosecutor.
Silence.
But unless you can prove your theory, it's no better than a rusty sword. That's right, you have no proof I switched the launch pads! Somebody needs a better anger management counselor.
If the launch pads really were switched, there might be a record of it somewhere.
At this point, Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum were switched with each other. So the corridor beyond this door should be the one that belongs to the Space Museum.
Let's see, this is an image of the Launchpad 1 corridor. Do you see anything different when we compare it to the security footage?
Huh? That number on the floor. Yeah, I kind of knew that like a while ago. Well, what do you know? It looks like we have proof after all, Prosecutor Blackwell. And if this is just another bluff? Oh, don't worry. It's all right here. Right in this footage. Proof that beyond this door is the corridor to the Space Museum. Very well then, answer this for me, if you would. What in this footage proves that the corridor belongs to the Space Museum? That number 2 hiding back there.
Take that!
There's a 1 on the floor of the Launchpad 1 corridor. But take a look at the floor at the corridor in the security footage. Do you see the number on the floor behind the astronauts? It doesn't look like a 1, does it? That's because what you see is actually part of a 2. What? Why is it a 2 and not a 1? That's because the corridor you see is the one to the Space Museum. Yeah! Ah!
And so that means the corridor in this footage was not filled with smoke.
Yeah, you can kind of tell there's no smoke in there too in the photo. Oh, and I just totally skipped over that. Sorry. The explosion occurred in the Launchpad 1 on the side opposite to the Space Museum. And now that we know the two astronauts escaped from the Space Museum, the mystery from the previous trial of how they got down the ladder is cleared up. Mr. Terran carrying Mr. Starbuck simply took the elevator from the upper level down to the middle level.
Just incredible. The two launch pads were actually switched. But you'd think someone would have noticed on an event of this magnitude.
Everyone was down in the basement shelter when the launch pads were swapped back. There's no way anyone could have known what was happening on the surface. Take that. Also, I'm sorry that I'm just, like, really being pessimistic about this game. It's just, I feel like either I'm too smart or this game is too easy. Or too obvious, and yet you just gotta work around it.
Bye-bye!
No more lies, Director Cosmos. It's high time you told us the truth. Ah! My honor! My glory! Everything is slipping away! Time to deploy my ultimate weapon! Galactic engines! Ignition! What? It's got Halo! It won't stop! Ah! My stars! My glory! Ah! I can't stop laughing. Best breakdown! No, not that way! Ah! Cosmos is probably one of the best breakdowns in this game.
Bailiff! On your steed and after that witness!
Dear Lord.
I see we managed to retrieve you before you came to any bodily harm.
Director Cosmos, do you admit you switched the launch pads?
I admit it's true. I switched the launch pad 1 for the Space Museum. Oh, it's good to hear words I can believe for a change.
Before you do, Your Honor, two things. First, we don't know if Mr. Terran had prior knowledge of the switch. As for Mr. Starbuck, he was unaware of his surroundings thanks to his medication. Either way, Mr. Terran would have realized the instant he stepped into the Space Museum that it had been switched with Launchpad 1. So my first question is, if the Space Museum was perfectly fine, why did Mr. Terran feel the need to put on such a dramatic display? As for my second question, I'd like Director Cosmos to tell us why he switched the two launch pads to begin with.
Please, I can't. I exercise my right to remain silent. But I will say, my hands were tied. I was only doing what I could to keep my men from getting caught in that blast.
The director is terrified. He must have one heck of a reason for not wanting to explain why.
Probably not a good time to try to pry it out of him, huh?
Excuse me, but would you mind if I picked up my stars? Without my badge of rank, I'm nothing. I don't see why not. Bailiff, help the director retrieve his stars.
Really? Oh, Mr. Cosmos. Cosmos? Oh, man.
It appears the possibility of a culprit other than the defendant has presented itself. Mr. Starbuck, is there anything you wish to say?
I don't get it.
Don't get it? What don't you get?
Director, why did you do all that? From the very beginning, you never meant for the launch to go ahead, did you? You tricked us. Mr. Starbuck.
Starbuck, my boy, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the reason why. But I had to do it to protect the Space Center.
Director! Will I ever get the chance to go into space again?
Yes, of course. I won't rest until it happens. I will get you into space again, my boy.
Then the dream is still alive. You're doing it now for yourself and Taryn. What? That would be my face too. You're not going into space, Starbuck, but prison. I won't have it any other way. Why are you so hung up on him? Yes, I accept that the launch pads really was switched, and if there were a third person at that scene, I suppose they could have escaped. But I have yet to see proof of this third person's escape via the Space Museum. Oh, that's a good point. He's right. I don't have any proof. Starbuck, you will spill everything you know. What? Me? Ah! Where did you get those bombs? Tell me now. If you don't, my blade shall feast on your blood. Ah! If I'm going to die, I want to die in space. I have to do something. Sullivan Starbuck, prepare yourself. Ah! Excuse me, I'm about to cough. Give me a sec. Ha ha ha! Now, you know violence isn't the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. That annoying, cheerful laugh. It can't be none other than... Fulbright is here to save the day! Champion of righteousness, Bobby Fulbright here! In justice we trust! Detective Fulbright? Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Lawyer. I hope I'm not too late. I don't believe we had an appointment. I tried to hurry, but I ended up helping a little old lady across the street. And then I had to break up a cat fight. I tell you, justice sure is a full-time job. Was it a fight between cats, or... Why are you here again? Because the defendant isn't the culprit, and I came to make sure that justice is served. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Fulbright. I always thought you were a bit touched in the head. But have you finally succumbed? Nope, but it looks like you've succumbed to this phantom of yours. Open your eyes and let the evidence of justice uncloud your judgment. What evidence?
Come to think of it, he did say something about finding us some evidence.
Thanks, you two. I feel a lot better now that I've been able to get that off my chest. I'm going to work extra hard to find that perfect piece of evidence for you.
I didn't think he was serious, though. Oh, I didn't think he was serious, though.
So what is it, Detective? Is it something that will prove Mr. Starbuck innocent?
It is indeed! Have a look at this! What's this? A lighter? That's right, a lighter thought to have been used by the culprit, no less. The Space Museum's cleaning robot picked it up! It has the victim, Clay Taryn's blood, along with his killer's fingerprints on it. What? Ah! Surprise! God damn it, Fulbright. Your timing is impeccable. Order, order! Detective Fulbright, can I assume that the fingerprints don't belong to the defendant? You bet! Mr. Starbuck is totally innocent!
This is it. This is just what I needed.
Aw, yeah.
Your Honor, this is decisive evidence that supports the defense's earlier claim.
Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
With pleasure, Your Honor. Recall that where this lighter was found. Based on that, we can extrapolate that after the killer murdered Mr. Taryn, they escaped with lighter in hand into the Space Museum, where they dropped it. The switching of two launch pads occurred. Then finally, the killer left through Boarding Lounge 2 and made their escape. Meanwhile, Mr. Starbuck was found in Boarding Lounge 1 after the murder. A fact that Director Cosmos has testified to. Therefore, Mr. Starbuck couldn't have possibly been the one to drop the lighter there.
Silence.
Ah, but the defendant had free reign of the area until Director Cosmos appeared. Could he not have dropped the lighter in the Space Museum during that span of time?
Objection!
You'd like that to be true, wouldn't you? But Director Cosmos testified that right after he saw the mysterious figure with a lighter, he went into the lounge and found the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. In other words, Mr. Starbuck wouldn't have had the time to double back to the museum. No, Prosecutor Blackwell, this lighter could only have been dropped by the real killer. Ugh. Most importantly, Mr. Starbuck's fingerprints were nowhere to be found on this lighter. I think you understand what this means, don't you? This piece of evidence unequivocally proves that Mr. Starbuck wasn't the culprit. Ah! So much yelling in this case. This does indeed appear to be decisive evidence that proves the defense's claims. As for the remote switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, we can assume it was planted by the killer on the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. No, there must be some mistake. Frankly, Prosecutor Blackwell, I've been worried about you. You've been chasing this phantom for 7 whole years. I understand your urgency because tomorrow...
Silence!
Fulbright, you promised never to speak of that. Huh? Tomorrow? What about tomorrow?
Given the body of evidence, I think it's safe to say the defendant is innocent. In light of the fact that it was impossible for him to have committed the crime, a few unanswered questions remain, so I look forward to seeing what you two uncover. But for now, this court finds the defendant, Solomon Starbuck, not guilty! Confetti! Party hard! Go into space, Starbuck! Go in for Terran!
Interesting enough, we didn't figure out what the fingerprint culprit thing is yet. Blah, you get what I mean.
Yes, we did it, Mr. Wright!
Looks like we pulled it off somehow, huh? With some help from Detective Fulbright. Mr. Wright, Miss Sykes, thank you. And please thank Apollo for me, too. You all are the best.
Oh, I wish we could tell Apollo about Mr. Starbuck's verdict right now.
Yeah, me too. That's gonna have to wait.
Now that a verdict has been reached, I'd like to bring today's trial to a close. Court is adjourned.
What about the fingerprints on that lighter?
Objection!
Blackwell's like, not done! It's too late to object, isn't it? It simply isn't possible. Something's wrong.
Prosecutor Blackwell, are you dissatisfied with the verdict?
Fulbright, what were the results of the fingerprint analysis for the lighter? Huh? The results? Ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha! Well, I was in a hurry, you see, and then there was that cat fight, and well... Really, Fulbright? I kinda got carried away when I heard the prints weren't Mr. Starbuck, so... You have yet to read it. Prosecutor Blackwell, can you read out who the prints belong to? That's what I like to know. Upon thorough analysis, the fingerprints were found to belong to Athena Sykes. So says the report. What? What? Huh?
Me?
Wait, what? Huh? Why are Thetas... K?
Order! I say, order! Miss Sykes, tell me you have an explanation for this. We just finished proving that this lighter could only belong to the killer. So finding your prints on it can only lead us to one grave conclusion.
I don't know how they got there, but I know I'm not the culprit.
The frick, man? This can't be happening. We built up our argument piece by piece, and I don't think any of our reasoning was faulty. So how could it have led to this? Ah!
What have I done?
Please forgive me! I'm sorry! I don't know if that was anything to do with you.
Order! Order! Detective Fulbright, stop your crying!
What in the world is happening here? It's like the world's gone mad.
Order! Order! I will have order!
Oh dear Lord. Well, that escalated very quickly. Confusion spiraled into utter chaos. After all we'd fought for, the truth had turned cruelly on us to accuse Athena of the crimes. Somewhere, somehow, everything had gone terribly wrong. We had stumbled over the edge of reason and into the jaws of a twisted darkness. To be continued. Right? Yep! And that was the end of the case, I know? See what I mean? It's kind of like 4.5. It's not really the whole thing, so... But anyway, that's it for case 4. So I guess I'll see you guys in case 5, where things are going to be changing up quite a bit, and I hope you guys will enjoy the production that's going into for case 5, episode 5, whatever 5. If you guys like what I'm doing, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, or give me suggestions of things I should change, like my English or something. Alright, later guys! Prosecutor Blackwell, what if I told you that the 2 astronauts never set foot inside the launch pad area, or instead went into another place? And what if the director moved launch pad 1 back? What if, when the director moved launch pad 1 back, it was not from the launch site, but from another place? What would you say then? Cut the existential bull, or I'll cut you.
Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself at once.
I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, Your Honor. Let me explain. Director Cosmo's reasoning for moving Launchpad 1 was... to switch it with another place. Yes. Because he wanted to switch it with some other place.
I'm sorry, but did you say...
A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film. Oh, right. So to reiterate... Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy. Ah!
Get a grip, Mr. Wright, and focus! We know the launch pad must have been moved.
But our deductions and the actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction to each other.
Well, maybe the 2 astronauts never actually boarded the rocket. This footage could be fake, taken with body doubles after the incident or something.
Oh no, let's not have deja vu case 3.
On second thought, that's too far-fetched, even for me.
Never actually boarded the rocket? Hey, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe,
Huh?
somewhere, we just might find out. Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing, and wishful thinking. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is. Or are you not man enough to, boy? Yeah!
Talk about hitting below the belt.
Youngins these days. Alright, you're old. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after he came to the lounge. But the launch pad is right where it's supposed to be. Ugh. Wait a minute. Maybe I have it all backwards. What if the director turned the knob, not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back to where it was supposed to be? What are you blathering about? What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident? And then, after the incident, Director Cosmos moved it back to its usual spot. All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back. And it would be right where the police found it. Ah! What sound was that? Wait. Oh, that was a sigh? God damn it, I can never tell. You made him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. Was what I said really that off-based? It pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you. However, our great liar turned the knob only after he discovered the crime scene. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the lounge when our astral wonders made their escape. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Dual Destinies. I believe this will actually be the last video for video 4. What is it, like we're on video 9 or something like this now? But anyway, we're trying to figure out if the director had moved the launch pad or not, so let's see what happened there. Curse my judgment for calling history's greatest liar to the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge in his lies and war games to his heart's content. Liar? But it doesn't make sense. You can't deny that someone turned that knob. And once the safety lock was released, I'm sure the pad must have went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we just might find where the killer escaped to. Ah! You're sure it must have went